The 1979-80 season, League Division 4 finished 18th, League Cup first round, FA Cup fourth round. Halifax Town survived the Football League's annual meeting, but were concerned that they only picked up 37 votes, fewest of the four clubs up for re-election. Doncaster 50, Crewe 49 and Darlington 43 were comfortably voted back in, but non-league Altrincham and Kettering must have been devastated at polling only 13 and 12 votes respectively. Town's directors viewed re-election as a fresh start and made £45,000 available to George Kirby for team strengthening. The town boss spent wisely, capturing young Aston Villa defender David Evans for £22,500. He was appointed skipper. And Paul Hendry from Bristol Rovers for £5,000. Hendry was a midfielder who had played in the top division with Birmingham City. Kirby also secured the experienced midfielder Tony Gedminitis, Northampton, and Port Vale centre-half Dave Harris on free transfers. There was in addition talk of Icelandic international Arne Svensson joining the club. Hopes were raised, but the player, whom Kirby knew from his time spent out in Iceland, never boarded the plane. Despite encouraging performances in the League Cup against Division 3 side Shrewsbury Town, the home leg was drawn 2-2 before the Shaymen lost 1-0 at Gay Meadow. Supporters may have been forgiven for thinking it was a case of as you were. Town failed to win any of their first three league games, but results during September brightened the outlook as the side went through the month unbeaten in 6 games, earning Kirby the division's Manager of the Month award. This was his second such honour whilst at Halifax Town. His first had been 9 seasons previous. September was not without its hitches. Kirby lost his secretary David Holland, who had left for a job outside of football. He was replaced by Mark Walker, who in turn succeeded by Martin Firth in January. 2 weeks later, goalkeeper Mick Leonard moved to Notts County for £35,000. Town went back to Preston to buy John Kilner in a deal worth £12,500. Kilner's registration was not cleared in time for Town's home game with Hereford. Mickey Bullock's car broke down on the way to the Football League headquarters at Lytham St Anne's, so into the side came Johnny Hugh, a non-contract player. Hugh played for a top amateur Halifax side, Irish Democratic Club, but he performed soundly as Town won 1-0. Later in the month, Johnson broke his leg in a crude challenge by Hartlepool's Bob Newton, and would not play again for almost a year. It was around this time that Kirby turned down a £25,000 bid from Hereford for Kevin Johnson. The manager rated the player in the 100,000 bracket mark. On the day George Kirby was named as Manager of the Month, Town beat Newport 2-1 to rise to 5th. 2 weeks later, with the crowds flocking back to the Shea, Town became the first side to beat Walsall. But although the squad had been bolstered by the signing of centre-back Malcolm Goodman from Bromsgrove Rovers and local lad Andy Whiteley, Town could not sustain their challenge. Kirby made further signings, including John Thomas on loan from Everton, former Preston striker John Smith via the Los Angeles Hawks, and Vernon Allott from Hednesford Town. Allott cost £6,500, but the injection of fresh blood could not halt Town's slide. With league form deteriorating, Town at least allayed fears of a shock in the FA Cup when they defeated non-league Scarborough 2-0 at the Shea. No sooner had Town secured a draw at Walsall in the next round than the winners were paired with First Division Manchester City. Town needed 2 replays to get past Walsall after extra time. 2 days later, on Boxing Day, the Shaymen produced another memorable performance, beating high-flying neighbours Huddersfield 2-1 in front of 10,061. That turned out to be the last ever 5-finger gate for a league match at the Shea. That figure was exceeded in the FA Cup just 10 days later, when an all-ticket 12,599 packed the stadium for the visit of Malcolm Allison and his multi-million-pound Manchester City outfit. Leaving no stone unturned, George Kirby enlisted the aid of hypnotist Romark, but chances of a giant killing lay more in the state of the Mudbath pitch than anything else. Halifax duly provided that upset, courtesy of Paul Hendry's solitary strike, but that game was a prelude to the off-field problems. Chairman Andrew Delaney missed the match in protest over directors Jack Turner and Robert Hanson, whom he claimed were not pulling their weight. At an emergency board meeting, these two resigned from the board, leaving it just 3 strong, although the addition of John Goldthorpe in March brought it back up to 4. The spotlight was on Town for 3 weeks leading up to the 4th round tie at Bolton. So much so that even defeat at bottom place Crewe, 7 days after the Manchester City win, merited a mention. Around 6,000 supporters made the trip to Burden Park, but there was to be no repeat shock. Bolton, struggling in Division 1, won 2-0, though Town were far from disgraced. Just where all those supporters disappeared to when Halifax Town next played at home was a mystery. On the 9th of February, just 1,939 turned up for the visit of Bournemouth. That disappointing figure was mirrored only by Town's miserable run-in to the end of the season. With his reputation enhanced by the cup run, manager George Kirby was offered a 3-year contract. His reward was to watch his side taken apart by Huddersfield, who hit 5 goals on their way to the 4th Division title. How Kirby must have envied his counterpart that day, former Town fullback Mick Buxton, for the Shaymen only won one of their last 13 matches, slipping from 11th to 18th. After the nightmarish events of the previous season, Kirby had intended this campaign to be one of consolidation, prior to marking a promotion surge in 1980-81. With this in mind, there was some surprise at the players Kirby released. Tony Gedmintis had been forced to quit after being diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat, but who knows? John Smith, Peter Burke and Jeff Hutt may have offered something to the cause. Bob Mountford left for Australia, and Chris Dunleavy, having also been originally released, was re-signed before jetting out to join him at Christmas, by which time Kirby expected his promotion push to be in full swing.